Welcome to Team Kinetica. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Can you introduce yourself to our audience and we'll move on?
Yes, I'm Sam Curran, Surrey and England cricketer. I'm 25 years old and been playing cricket professionally since the age of 17, yeah.
And can you describe a typical day in the life for Sam Curran?
I guess the typical day for me is in season we play different types of formats, T20, 4-day cricket and 50-over cricket, but at the moment we're playing T20 cricket where games are generally in the evening, so I guess a typical day would probably be for me I'm a big breakfast person, so kind of get all my food in quite early in the morning, go out on a stroll with, I guess, the family, and then I guess just do a lot of prep for the game time, whether that's go to the gym, have a stretch, and making sure my fluid's up, eating the right types of food, stuff like that. And I guess game start at 6, come into the ground probably 2:30, and I guess sit in the gym, have a spin on the bike, warm up nice and think about the opposition, who I'm going to come up against. But I'm a pretty reactive person, so I quite like to get onto the field and just react what's in front of me, and I don't like to overthink things too much.
We'll definitely get into the game day side of things as we move through. But first of all, if we could take you back and hear about your family. We know you're steeped in cricket history, so you can take it from wherever you want. I know your father was a Zimbabwean international, so we'll probably start with him.
Yeah, so as you can probably tell from my accent a little bit, I was born in England and grew up in Zimbabwe. Got two brothers, Ben and Tom, and like you said, my dad played cricket for Zimbabwe and county cricket in England for Northamptonshire and Gloucestershire. So about 10 years ago, we moved over to the UK to I guess pursue cricketing opportunities and push on with our career. And I guess luckily, growing up as a family, I had two brothers who were very competitive. I'm a very competitive person, a lot of back garden fights, as you might call them, in the garden with my two brothers. Who both play cricket now as well. So I guess it was instilled in us from a very young age, being cricketers, where I guess my dad had us in the nets from early in the morning before prep school, stuff like that. We had a cricket net in our garden, which was obviously very lucky to have one. A lot more space where we were and grew up. But I guess, and yeah, I think it was just in us from a very young age, and we've just gone through the age groups, academies, and thankfully here playing for Surrey at the moment, and then doing well for Surrey, then you get picked for England. That's, I guess, the dream as a young kid, yeah.
You mentioned you were competitive. Would you also have a softer side and were your friends as well, or is it all enemies on and off
Well,
the field?
I think when it comes to sport, I hate losing, so I guess I'm a very competitive person in terms of that side of things. Always want to win, whether it's playing golf or whether that's playing squash, or played a bit of hockey at school as well. But yeah, anytime there's a team sport, I always want to win. And having two brothers, I guess anyone who's got brothers or sisters always want to have one up on your brother or sister. So I guess that was just from a young age. But I think that's one of my strengths in a way, I guess, is when I go into the field, is getting into the battle of competition and making sure. I think if you're naturally a competitive person, it gives you that edge.
How beneficial was it for yourself, Tom, Ben, to have a father who had played international cricket before you hit the scene?
Yeah, it was obviously it's huge. Obviously, we looked up to him the whole time, and I guess he wanted us to just enjoy cricket. But I think we played it so much like I said, in the garden, growing up at school with all our schoolmates and friends. But I think when you get to that age, probably 12, 13, it was probably you realise you're quite good at it, or you kind of got that. We played most sports, but I guess having my dad, who was always around coaching, we'd go down to the cricket ground and he'd be coaching. We'd run around in the outfield during like the lunch break, stuff like that. But I guess as we got a little bit older, we probably realised we had played so much that we actually were quite good. And then I guess that just went from strength to strength. And I guess as you get a little bit older, you start dropping sports. Like I said, I played a bit of hockey, a bit of rugby, but my dad actually stopped us from playing rugby because he knew the injuries that may have happened, especially when he knew he wanted us to be cricketers and guys started getting stronger, bigger. I was always a pretty small guy, so I always felt like I'd get crushed.
Definitely. An awful lot to it, and an awful lot to the season, given that you play in the IPL for the Punjab Kings and with your home club here of Surrey. So how would a typical cricket season work then?
Obviously, being a cricket sport which is played on grass, a bit different to other sports. When it rains, we can't play there. That delays our game because we play on a nice firm pitch. So obviously, if it rains and the pitch gets wet, it affects the conditions. Whereas in other sports, it actually makes it a bit more interesting and stuff like that. But I guess the normal season would be English season would be about April to end of September. We play for my club here at Surrey. We play 14 4-day games in the season. 14 T20s and 14 50-over games. So it's got a lot of cricket, and I guess we've got a big squad here as well, so a lot of rotation, keeping guys fit for the 6-month period. Luckily, thankfully, before that as well, I guess I went to the IPL, which is before the English season, which starts in about March till I guess the middle of May. So I guess it's a tournament in India where it's incredibly loved and pretty big spectacle. Whereas cricket in India, I probably describe it as football in England. The support for the clubs and the love for, I guess, the sport is absolutely huge. And playing out there is an amazing experience. You get to play in front of 85, 100,000 people in one game, and that's a T20, which is short, explosive. And yeah, I've been going there for 3 or 4 years, so absolutely love my time there.
So it sounds like it can be incredibly taxing season if you're going from India to up here to England then. How do you manage that, and how do you manage particularly the recovery side of things to make sure that you're at your best?
Yeah, it is, and I think we obviously players make a lot of choices. We've got a lot of help from, I guess, different types of, we've got a lot of medical staff, a lot of physios, stuff like that, but in terms of when you go on tour, you've coming across different types of foods, and you kind of stick to, I'm generally someone who sticks to what I know. I'm not very, I guess the whole reason in sport, I guess, is you got to be comfortable what you're eating, especially when you go to places like India where the food's very different to what you're going to have in England. So I like to prepare myself. Thankfully this season at the IPL I took a lot of Kinetica stuff because of, I guess, joining you guys was obviously a great opportunity for me to kind of cover that side. When you go on tour, you can take a lot of products that are a range of products that I guess you can use, whether it's vitamins or whey protein, stuff like that, where I guess in England you probably have access to it, whereas in India you stock up and make sure, because it's a long tournament of, I guess, 8 weeks. So I'm generally like to have shakes pre-game, post-game as well, and just lots of food in terms of your proteins, your carbs, I guess, where there's a lot of, our physios are very, and our medical sports and science are well on top of that. But like I said, when you go to places like that, you're probably a little bit out of your comfort zone because you're playing for a different team, you're playing for different coaches, different staff. So I guess that's when you've got to be very well prepared for that.
Getting into kind of nutrition side of things a little bit more, you mentioned shakes before and after. Yeah. First of all, what would be your go-to shake, and how do you feel that's benefited your body?
Yeah, well, I actually probably prefer, sometimes when I want to skip a meal, I'd probably have like a shake to kind of fill me up. I prefer to have it with milk. Some guys like to have it with water. I'm more of a probably a strawberry kind of chocolate maybe, but that kind of varies on, I guess, day to day what I'm feeling. But mainly post game, I probably have more shakes with recovery. Kind of as soon as I come in the dressing room after a tough day on the field, I'd probably take a shake and kind of just get it down you, and helps with your recovery and I guess refuel what you've lost during the games, especially in hot conditions. We play in humidity, the levels that are extremely high, and I guess that's just an easy way for me to kind of, because sometimes when I walk off the pitch I'm not very hungry. It's kind of, the adrenaline's still going, you kind of still trying to settle down after a game, but I guess that's where I probably just sneak in a little shake to kind of fill me up and for the time being, and that's what my probably routine is.
At this point in your career, I know you made your Test debut in 2018. You've done a whole lot since then. What would you put as your highest achievement in the sport?
I'd probably say, like you said, my Test debut in 2018. It's a dream as a young kid to play Test cricket, which is the pinnacle of our sport. It's the hardest in a way. Obviously, 5 days in a row of grueling, intense cricket is obviously, I think, receiving my cap kind of, even now, just thinking back to that moment where you're in a big huddle with your team, and I actually received it from Graham Thorpe, who was a huge Surrey legend, England legend as well. So I guess someone you look up to as a young player, especially being here at Surrey, you look at the legends. And I guess being able to say you received your cap from him, and all the teammates giving you a clap whilst you put your hat on in the huddles, a moment that you dream of. And I think that's probably my proudest moment. There's obviously been individual moments within games that I have great memories of, but we play so much, and I think that just receiving your cap, because that's what you strive to do from a very young age.
My very last question, and it's probably kind of flummoxed here because you don't look too far ahead, but if you had to, and if you did dream as big as you could, how would you like to be remembered at the end of your career?
I think a big one for me is being obviously, I guess, being remembered as a good team player. I'd probably say it's quite a nice way to go down and be remembered. Obviously, I'd love to have a hugely successful career for England and play 100 tests, play loads. Those are like the pinnacle things, but being someone, I guess, who your teammates could rely on to bring you out of tough situations and pressure scenarios maybe is a nice way to be remembered. But obviously I'd love to play as many caps as I can for England. Would be pretty special for me and my family, I guess.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.